Okay, so today we'll see about how to create a class and how to create a structure. So when I have a class, what is the use of class and what is the use of structure? So in real time, right? So yesterday what we have seen, every class, whatever you create, every file, whatever you create, it is nothing but a class only. So whatever the implementations in the real time, if I want to create a variable, if I want to write some logic, if I want to implement something, so everything I have to do inside my class only. So now, if I'm creating something, if I create a file, it is nothing but a class. First, we'll see how to create a class. Then automatically our file is giving a class for us. So what we have to do, we need to do only to write the code. But in the playground now, we'll see how to create a class and how to write the things there. To create a class, the keyword we use a class keyword and following by your class name. The class name can be anything that you can provide. So I have given a class, my class name is a. So something I am giving here. Now in the first class we have seen how to create a variable. So in the class now we can create any kind of variable. So now if I want to create a variable, so in the first classes and first four classes, we have not done this. We have not done creating a class and writing this. We are just writing the variables. We are declaring the variables, and here we were getting the output. Now, what is the variable I have defined? This variable I have defined inside my class. If I call class, then only it will be executed. If I don't call my class, this will be never executed. So now if I have a variable inside the class, how I can access this variable? First, to access this variable, you have to create a reference. You have to create a reference for your class. What is the class you are having? You have to create a reference. And the reference is not any third party thing. So it is nothing but a variable creation for the class. So usually whenever I'm creating a variable, I'm creating my own variable and I'm assigning some value. It can be integer, it can be string, it can be anything. Now if I create a variable, so we know where keyword or let keyword we can use and your variable name. Now I'm not assigning any integer, any string. Now I want to take the class here. So what I'll do, you will just pass your class name, and from the first class onwards, we were saying this is my initializer. So now also it will provide, this will initialize your class. Now nothing but it will take this class into the memory till this point of time. This code I commented, suppose this code is not there, if you simply write this, this will never be in your application memory. I cannot do anything with this class. I'm simply writing 4 lines of code, that's it. Nothing application will do with this. When I write this, the class, what are the class I'm creating, the class will be in the application memory. Now I can access this class variable, I can do anything I want this class variable. Now how I can access this, this is nothing but your instance, or you can say reference of the class, instance, reference, variable, anything we can say. Now your whole class memory in this variable. Now my variable, I have this here. If 100, I don't, second time onwards I don't need to call 100. If I call x, automatically 100 will come. Now also if I call this variable, automatically my entire class will come. So your variable name, what is referred to the class. How I can access the variable means, you can access the variable by using dot syntax. have a dot syntax, we can use by dot syntax. Now, my class variable, what are the variable I'm having? Dot, just do escape. It will show what are the variables we have defined, what are the functions we have defined. So now, if I don't know how to call, just do escape. It will tell. I have created a variable called X inside my class here. We can access X here. If I write some more variables, I want to create some more variables. So variable creation can be any way. So here I can create a variable. What are the four types we declare? In any way, I can declare my class variable. Now I want to access x1. So your reference name dot escape. If I do you want to access integer called x, or do you want to access x1 that is a string? I can access this. So anyway, I can use this and it will work. When I have a class, then what is use of structure? So in class, we know how to declare a variable, we are accessing also. Then what is the use of structure to create here? What are the class you are declaring? Classes are the reference types. So here reference is not a big word, it is nothing but it will store your object in the application's memory. Now my entire class, what is the variable I'm declaring? It will be in my application's memory, and whenever I'm accessing. So here whenever I'm accessing this, you are not accessing this x variable. For this x, there is a memory, and from the memory, I'm accessing this values. Now we'll check why it is a class and why it is a reference type. Suppose here if I say this, what is the line of code I am writing? This is nothing but creating the reference of your class. Now what I'll do? I'll create two references for my class. Now we know this is a reference one, reference to. So the reference to, instead of creating this again, initializing this class again, what I'm doing is I'm assigning what is the reference one I'm created. So one reference one I have created for the class A. Assigning my reference one to my reference two. Now if I do something, okay, instead of writing, I'll create a project, and in the project I'll copy this.
One question.
Yes,
So we're creating the reference that these are called objects, right?
correct.
So objects we're creating that is var type. So can you create it at late type or not?
We can create. So variable can be anything. So this is nothing but my variable I'm creating. So whenever whatever the variable you want to create, you can use either the let keyword or you can use either the var keyword.
Okay.
So the same thing I'm copying here. So I have created a class A. So wherever my project is there in my class, I'm creating my custom class called A. So inside this, I'm declaring some variables here. So x and x1. Now this variable I'm accessing in the other class. If I want access, so until this class, wherever I want, I can access this. But I want to access this variables, what are the x and x1 in a different class called vController. This is a class A, this is a class vController. If I want to access this, what is the first thing that I have to do? In the real time, what is the first thing that I have to do? First, I have to create a variable for my class, what the class I am having. Here I am creating either the instance, object, reference, anything we can call. For the class A, I have a variable called class reference. Now, what my compiler will do? My compiler will have all this class memory. What is the class memory I'm having? All this class memory will be in this variable now. Now, if I want to access, what I have to do? Using this variable, I have to use the dot syntax to access. Now, in the first line of code, I'll get all the variables. So my memory will be in the class variable. Then I'm accessing and printing it. So class reference dot x. What is the class reference dot x means? I should get this 100 value. So I'm printing this. In the runtime, if you want to see, you put a breakpoint, you do the debug and you print, then you can see the value. Now I want to print, I want to access x1 variable. So this one also I'm printing here. Now there is no value to print here. I don't have any value here. So if I have a value, I'll print this value. So this is the basic thing that when you want to access a class variable from the other class into a different class, these are the first three things that we follow. Then I want to see what is the meaning of reference type. I'll comment this. Now first thing what I'm doing is I'm creating one reference. The same way how I create a reference in a class, in a project, I can create hundreds of references. So it will not throw any error. Now I'm creating one reference. So what is the reference I'm creating? This I'm assigning to the second object. What is the second object I'm having? So to this I have assigned. Now I'll check in reference m what is the x value. In reference to reference one, what is the x value I'm having? Reference to what is the x value. Now after this, what I'll do is, this is nothing but you are just accessing the values. Now I want to update the value. How I'll update? The same way, using the dot syntax, access the values. So reference one dot x. Now I'll update this value to 200. So reference value I'm updating here to 200. Now print this again. After updating, I want to check what is there in the reference one, what is there in the reference two. No, from here. So as we discussed, we'll make to let first thing I'm taking the reference. So one by step by step we'll go. And what is the reference one I'm having? I'm having assigning to the reference two. Then I'm printing what is there in the reference one X variable. I have a value called 100. Same in the reference 2 also, I'll have a value called 100. Now in this step, what I'm doing, I'm updating the X value. What is the X value I'm having? I'm updating to the 200. Now I'm printing again what is there in the reference one X. This value is already updated for the reference one to the variable. You observe this, to only reference one, the X value I'm updating. So in the reference one X, I have a 200 now. Now what will be the value in the reference 2? So in the reference 2 also, I have a value called 200. So, but reference to value I never updated here. Reference to value I never updated. How this will happen means, whenever you are creating some reference here. So now, whenever I'm creating some reference, what it exactly do is, the app reference, sorry, the class reference, whatever you're creating, it will be created in your app memory. So now, whenever you are assigning this, this is not actually you're assigning here. When you are assigning the variable reference to, reference to will also access the same memory location. When I'm updating X value to 200, now for this there will be one memory. This is not the lane. For this there will be one memory. In that memory I'm updating to the 200. When I'm accessing this X value, this will not go and check what is there here. This will go and check. So here a memory created, this will go and check what is the value in that memory, and the same way this will go and check what is the value that is there in the memory. So this way, when you are accessing a class always we call as a reference type. So here, why it is doing like this? If I do something like this, here I'm not assigning the memory. So here I'm assigning the variable what I have created. Here I'm not assigning anything. So this will create a new memory for reference to. So this will not have any relation with this object. This object has a relation. This one I'm assigning here. For this one I'm not mentioning anything. I'm creating one new memory location. So whenever I do something like this, this will also have its own memory location. So whenever you create a new reference for the class, this will always have one new memory location.
One question.
Yes.
So we assigned reference one value to reference two, right?
Where, which line?
37. Reference two equal to reference one.
Correct.
37. So now we change that reference that x value from reference one only. So we change reference one dot x equal to so and so.
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
200. So I assigned the reference one value to two reference two value. So if I change the reference two value that time, it will also change in reference.
Correct. If I change the value in reference to, so
and
x is equal to now 300. Okay. Now it doesn't mean these both references are sharing the same memory location. So when I update in reference to, this will get reflect in the reference one also.
So now when we created the line 43, let reference 4 equal to a, means that a class object we created. Now if we access x from any of the references, the value will be 300, right?
No. Reference 3 has its own location. Reference 4 has its own location. Now here I'll print reference 3 and reference 4 also. Now what it will do at this point of code. So whenever I say this point of code, for this again a memory will be created. When a memory is getting created for this, x value is 100 only. So now whenever I access this, my x will be 100. Whenever I access this, my x will be 100. Now we'll see how it will behave. So reference 1 updating to 200. In both places I have a 200 and 200. And reference 2 also I'm updating to 300. Now in reference also it will get updated to 300 because it is sharing the same location. What is the reference 1 and 2 what I'm having, it is sharing the same location. So it got updated here. Now we will check what is there in the reference 3. Now I have a reference 3 and I have a reference 4. It will be 100 because there is no connection between this and this. So it is having its own location. It is having its own location. Reference 4 also will be 100. So reference 4 whatever I have in, it will be 100 value. Now if I want to share the same location, reference 3 also I want the same location. So now we can assign reference 1 here. We can assign reference 1 here. Now all these 4, what are the 4 objects, 4 variables I have created, these 4 will share the same location. Clear?
Yes. So that means x is, while calling the class, the x value is 100, and that is for initial for all the reference we created, right? Initially,
Correct.
all the references, x value is 100 only. So
Correct.
we are implicitly, means we are only changing that line 53 and line 57. We are only changing, and that
Correct.
is, that value is changed for one reference only, not for all, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay, okay, got it.
Clear with this?
Yes.
So this way, this is the thing. We call as a class is a reference type, and definitely they'll ask. So either they may ask what are the class types, and they may ask what the reference type means and how it will work. When they ask how it will work, you have to tell all these concepts: how it will store in the app memory, and how it will share the memory location. And when I create a new reference, this is a new reference. So will it share the same old memory location or it will create a new memory location? So give all these examples. Try to write all the code, whatever it is there. Try to write all the code. So then they will easily understand that you know something. If you are not having, I'll put this. So if I'm not telling anything here, so how it will work? So they'll easily understand that you don't know anything. Now, when I have a class, I'm telling this is the reference type. Then what about the structure? Now, what are the structures I'm having? Structures, we say value types. Okay. As of now, I'll comment all this code. So I'll share this same document. So you just uncomment and see what are the things that are working. I have commented for now. Now I want to create a class. I want to create a structure and I want to see how it will work. So to create a structure, the same struct key we use. To create a class, we are using the class keyword. To create a structure, we use the struct keyword. So structure, my structure name is B, I have created. Now we know how to create a variable as we created in the class. In the structure also, the same way I create a variables. Variable creation. So here I am creating variable y, variable y value I'm giving 100. I'll create one more, my variable y1, I have a value called structure. Now how I can access this variable? So any variable you can access by using the dot syntax. You can access, you can update the variables from class or structure. So you can access from class, you can access from the structure by using my dot syntax. Now this is a structure I have created. As of now, what my compiler will do, my compiler will not do anything for this. So as of now, this is only some simple 4 lines of coding. I want to create a reference for my structure. This is nothing but the same way how we create for a class, simple variable, and to this variable what you want to store. So when I want to access an integer, when I want to access a string, so something like this I'll write. Now I want to access my entire structure. So without initializing my structure, I cannot access anything here. So if I try to access y value here, it doesn't know what is the y value. So now what I have to do, I have to access my structure first, then only I can access all the variables. Now I want to access b here, and I will initialize this. Now what it will do is, it will create a memory for this, but not for the variables here. Now I have a memory for my structure. So now this will be in the applications memory. Now I want to access this the same way how we access for the structure, sorry, class structure reference dot what value you want to access. So we said we can access by using the dot syntax. Now my structure name I have taken into the variable. So now if I want to access, I can access by using this also, or the entire thing is in this variable. Now using this variable, you can access y. Now just stop and run. I have my entire structure in this variable. Using this, I'm accessing the y value. So y value has 100 here, and y1 has a value called structure. So I'm printing these two values. Now this first thing is done, accessing. Now the second thing, why it is a value type. Now create multiple references. So this I'll comment.
One question actually.
Okay.
Can you scroll up while we declare the class? Where we declare the class actually, yeah, line 19. So
Okay.
when we created one class,
Okay.
and when that where x1 string type equals so and so, when we create one reference of it,
Okay.
so basically what it does, uh, when we created one class,
Okay.
it creates a memory location where it assigns there are two values, where it creates two variables, one is x, another is x1, right?
Yes. Yes.
And when we created one reference, it creates one variable which points the class, right?
No, up to this thing. So forget about everything. When I read this line of code, so application will not do anything with this. So it will just like a 4 lines of code. When I'm doing this, what is the class I'm having? So now this variable I have created for the class here. Now what are the variables you are having inside this. It can be 100 variables, it can be 1000 variables. For all the variables, a memory will be created.
Okay. So our reference is a class type variable, right?
Correct, correct.
So from that variable only, we means from that reference only, we can only access the class members, right?
Correct, correct.
The same happens in structure also, na? Means
No, here we'll see one more example. So why we call it as a value type.
okay.
So after seeing this, you will easily understand. So why my structure is a value type. Now what I'll do, I'll create one reference for the structure I am creating. Okay, the same example what we see for the class. So here what example we have seen, the same example we are seeing for the structure. Now one more reference I'll create. Now I'll assign the first reference, whatever I have created. This is nothing but first reference one for my structure, assigning reference one to reference two. Now I will access the variables and I'll see what are the values that I'm having here. Now in the reference one I have 100. In the reference two also I have 100. So as of now, after assigning, immediately I'm checking. So after assigning this value here, immediately I'm checking both are having same value. Now we will update with one reference. In reference one, y value I'm updating to the 200. Now I'll print this two again. Immediately after assigning, there is no modification here. There is no update, there is no modification here. So both are having same values, 100 and 100. But in this line of code, for the reference, what is the reference one I am having? Only reference one y value I am updating the 200. So reference one y value will be 200 now. But what about reference two? Reference to still having the same old value what we have. So in this case, what happening? It will not share any memory location. What it will have? What are the new value that you have assigned? For the reference one, the new value I have assigned 200. So in the reference one, always y will be 200. What is the latest value that you are assigning? Reference one, where I have updated. Reference one, I have updated at this point of code. At this point of code, what are the values that I am having here? The same values will be copied here. It will not share any location. It will just copy the value. Now, if I assign a reference to value to 300. Now we'll see again what will happen. Immediately after assigning, there is an update. So both are having same values. So here in this line of code, it will copy the values. It will not sharing any location. It is copying the values y is 100, y1 is struct. When I do this, it will copy what are the values that I am having here. So when I copy, I'll have the same values here also. No, I'm printing y and y will have a 100 and 100. For the reference one, I'm copying a new value called 200 here. So only for the reference one, the value will be updated 200. Reference to, I have copied a value here. At this point of time, my value is 100. I'm printing 100. Now for the reference to, I'm copying a new value for the y called 300. So now I'll print reference one. Reference one still having the 200 because here I have updated after this. For the reference one, there are no modifications for the y value. So reference one still go and check what is the last value that got assigned, 200. For the reference to, now I copied a new value called 300. It will have a 300. This is how structure will behave. That's why we call structures are the value types. It will just copy the value that if you assign. If you don't assign any value, it will not have any value. But what about the class? Class will go on and it will check in the memory what is the value in the memory, and it will pick the particular value. But structure, you give me value, I'll store the value. Here, I'll go to the location, I'll check the value. So this is the difference between a class types and the structure types. Definitely in interview you will get a question, what are the difference between, you may get in two different ways. Difference between a class and the structure. When I should use the class, when I should use the structure. Or you may get a question.
Now, if I structure, now you took STR1 and B, right?
Yes.
You B and you initialize it to what? 100.
Yes.
Okay. Now, structure you make it 300 and create another reference and print
300. So if I assign a value, so at this point of code, till this point of code, my structure one y value is 200. If I update in the next line, that value it will hold.
Another STR2 for structure and dot y is equal to 300. So again, if you print STR1, you also.
No. STR1, so here we are